So Alan, we're here at Ravenbridge Farm, and you can see behind you there a old style barn has been put up, and there's a pond here, one of 4 that's been built, but apparently there's a bit of a problem, and you've been told they want you to fill the ponds in, take the barn down.
Just fill the ponds in. It's just crazy. It's an agricultural building that I needed for employing of 14 people. I built the barn that was already there in the past, but I relocated it 100 feet up from where it was previously. I erected the barn because I didn't think we needed planning permission. According to the websites, the government website, you don't need planning permission for a barn on a farm. It's an original barn that was already here anyway. The only difference being that I obviously put a new barn up, but in exactly the same size and shape that was there before. And initially, when the council came out to see me, because we'd had a report, so someone had reported me for building the barn without permission. Initially, the council said that they didn't have a problem at all, and they were happy to support the application, and I went away, and I actually didn't even have to put an application in at all if I didn't want to. But I thought, well, I might as well, now that the council have turned up, I might as well try and make it as legal as I need to do. Following on from that, they've now decided that they're not going to grant me permission because the land that we stand on now is a designated flood zone, which they only designated as a flood zone so many years ago. When I looked at the council's own flood zone map, it shows that it's not in a flood zone.
So you've lived here 10 years, thereabouts,
10 years,
and it's only actually been a flood zone for about
probably 3 years. And the only reason why it's a flood zone is because the English nature stopped draining the Whixhall moss, which is just behind us in the back, in the foreground or the background. They stopped draining the moss, and as they stopped draining the moss, the water level rose, and as it rose by a metre, it then floods into here. But it only floods at times of really heavy rain. Yeah. But it's hardly floods at all on my land. It just floods on the field next to me there. And even if it did flood, my argument was, well, it's my barn and my material in the barn, so what harm are they doing to anyone? It doesn't affect anyone, and there was no intentions of claiming from the council anyway over the flood. But the main point I'm trying to get across is that we employ people. I need this barn to employ people, and no one seems to take that into consideration, especially the fact that it's Ravenbridge Farm Limited. It's a company that's traded since 2005. Last year alone, it gave £500,000 back to the Exchequer by way of taxes, VAT, PAYE, and pension contributions. So if a person like me, who's been, basically, I think, victimised over just putting a barn up on my own land, I mean, what harm am I doing? It's a barn, and it's in a farm, and it's on a field. So
I guess 10 years ago, when you chose this house, one of the factors would have been it's got the land to do what you need to do and future plans and so on. So I guess as far as you're concerned, this barn's not a problem in terms of it being an eyesore. There's no other properties that are looking onto it. So if it just boils down to the floodplain factor, which is a new addition in the recent years, then, like you say, you're willing to accept any flood damage that there may or may not be. That's on your shoulder anyway, and it's not going to cause anybody else a problem.
It's never going to cause anyone a problem, and that's only a recent sort of addition that the council's reason for refusal, because they've tried all sorts. They've tried that it was too obtrusive, it was the wrong colour, the wrong shape, too big. So every time they've come up with an argument to not to allow the barn to pass, I countered them with an argument saying that, hang on, it isn't the case. Even the council's own heritage officer, Ruth Hitchin, which was very, very good to me, to be fair to her. She came and she was happy, and so I think she's the conservation officer, something to do with listed buildings. She came, she was happy. She said it sits nicely in its location, it's in keeping, it's out of the curtilage of a listed building. So I did everything possible that I could do to make the barn look natural, like it's been there for a long time. And even there are no neighbours as such, but the two closest ones, they were happy anyway. So
I mean, you said off camera before you actually spent more on the barn initially to get one that was more traditional style.
It's, anyone knows it. I could have put a green juniper green, I think it's called, with a pitch roof, but I didn't. So I went for the traditional one that was to be honest, I went for the one that was already there in the first place. But this was, again, that was an initial argument from the council, especially the parish council, who was saying there was no barn there in the first place. Then I proved absolutely 100% without doubt that there was a barn, had always been here, and it stood here for in excess of 60 years. The only reason why I took it down is because it looked an eyesore, and it was actually closer to the listed building than this one. So I've moved it further away.
And there's the pond we can see at the side of here. There's 4 of these you've built along
this
here.
This is the smallest one. There's another 2 over there.
And they're not happy with those either.
Them, no. Well, I couldn't believe it. The conservation officer from Shropshire Council said that she thought they were doing more harm than good. So I thought, well, okay, then if I've got to fill them in, I'll fill it in. I don't have a problem if that's. I only dug them in the first place to basically give something back, because the field before didn't have any ponds. And to be honest with you, coming from Liverpool originally, I always wanted my own pond, and I thought, well, I'm at this time of life, I want a pond, I'll dig a pond. So I'd never dreamt that there'd be a problem. And you've just come now and we've frightened all the birds off. There's a resident swan and cygnets and some mallards, I think. So anyway.
So you're just a bit left scratching your head at the minute.
Well, I can't understand where there's no logic, just no common sense at all. It's just can't see what the hell the problem. If they'd built it in a housing estate and it was the wrong colour, too big, you name it, I can accept that. But my main problem is not so much for me, it's for my employees as well, because at the end of the day, what are they going to do if they don't have the barn?
So if they say, right, it's coming down, what do you do then in terms of for your work? I mean, it's going to...
Well, to be honest with you, I've got that fed up now that I think if that's the way they're treating me, I'll just close the place down and forget it, then let them go, and the Shropshire Council can sort them out then. So they're going to have to go on the dole, and that's so be it. That's what they'll have to do. Because a company that gives £500,000 back to the Exchequer, any businessman would know that any company such as ours, a small company that employs 14 people, we work hard for our living. We don't make huge profits. We just make a living. We I'm not saying we don't make any money. We do. We make a living, but we paid all our bills. We've never received a single penny off anyone at all by way of a grant. I've never asked for anything. Never received anything, and I've always given. We've always been a net contributor. And you do that, and lo and behold, this is the thanks you get for being a net contributor. You get a civil servant who doesn't really understand the full emotions, I suppose, that you go through, because I've got workers there now not knowing whether they're going to have a job, and some of them have been with me since 2005. So, and one at least is 58. So as he said, what's he going to do to get a job at 58 years of age? Who's going to employ him?